Robert T. Summers of 4144 Watson Avenue, Holt, Michigan, 48842. Bob's phone number is area code 517-699-2443. The recording was made by Jim Walkinshaw of the Oldsmobile History Center on August 29th, 1989 at the History Center. This is tape number 1 of 2 tapes. Okay, Bob, if you could just start us with your name and your address and your phone number, please.
Okay, name is Robert T. Summers, S-O-M-E-R-S. I live at 4144 Watson Avenue, Holt, Michigan. Zip is 48842. Phone number is 517-699-2443.
Okay. Now, if you would just take us back to when you started, and that would probably be when you started with the GMI thing that you were talking about, and when that would have been and what was going on and so forth.
May of 1941 is when I started with General Motors.
Okay.
I went to work at General Motors Institute in Flint, Michigan, working in the machine shop, making service parts for Chevrolet division, guide pins,
Really?
such matter.
They were actually making service parts
Yes.
in GMI. Interesting.
Machine shop was. And I worked there until school started in the fall of that year. I had a labor permit the first, I think it was 2 weeks, because I wasn't 18 until the 24th of May, and I went to work around 1st of May.
Oh, yeah. So this was actually a paying job? They paid you to do that?
Yeah.
Neat. What did you get? Do you remember?
I got a base of 60 cents an hour.
Okay.
But we did part, what do you call it? Not part work, but piecework.
Piecework, yeah.
And never will forget, I made a bushing. It had 3 eccentrics in it. And they were paying something like $3 a piece for it. Because
Wow.
you had to chuck up each eccentric.
Yeah.
So we made a jig. Red Cherry and I, not Red Cherry, but the instructor down there, Cherry. We made a jig. I turned out about one every 5 minutes.
Oh.
I choked up the audit department. They came down and timed it. Had a lot of fun.
And then after that, you couldn't make so many and make higher pieces.
But they did pay me for those.
Did that? Yeah.
And I about broke the bank.
Well, that was a good thought.
Yeah.
Now that kept going through the summer that year, 41.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then that fall, I started school. And Bob Truxell was one of my classmates. He was a
All
T
right.
and I was an S.
All right.
So we were in identical classes all the way through. Later on, Rex Carter was in the direct opposite section.
Okay. What section were you in?
A.
A section.
He was
Okay.
B. And that went on.
Now, were you in the engineering end of the business? Is that where you were headed towards, or?
Well, back in those days, Jim,
Okay.
everybody had to have 2 years of shop experience.
All right.
3rd and 4th, junior and senior year, we were in so-called offices,
All right.
engineering.
Yeah.
So we had to pick up 2 years machine shop experience or production experience.
All right.
So I started out first month at Oldsmobile. They were winding down fender production on the 1942 model.
Oh yeah.
So I helped close that out.
Okay.
Building 56.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went back to school. Every month we changed.
4
back.
weeks on off sort of thing.
And then back in those days it was 4 weeks. Next time I came back, they were started into production of war products.
Oh, okay.
And they were switching over to make guns and shells. And I went to work for Tom Darton, who later became a vice president GM.
Right.
He worked out of building 68.
That was the office area, kind of, 68?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was sort of general supervisor of plant layout, I guess.
All right.
It's as close to title as I could get.
Yeah.
George Hendy worked for him, Tom's brother.
All right.
He's still alive, I guess. George, and so is Tom.
Yes.
We converted the final assembly plant into gun production.
Okay. Now this, when you say final assembly, that would have been building 3275?
3275.
Okay. You remember what kind of a gun you were making there?
107, I think.
Okay. It was it guns or shells?
Gun.
Guns. All right.
Gun plant.
Was that on the first floor or up on the second floor?
First floor.
First floor. Okay.
We had beaucoup de legs.
Oh,
It
yeah.
wasn't a very sophisticated operation.
Uh-huh.
Back in those days, we just used the equipment that we had. We didn't buy new equipment.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only new equipment we had was, we got into a pool with other divisions of GM. We listed machines that we weren't using, and they would borrow them.
Oh, yeah.
So we could have a Buick or a Cadillac or a Pontiac machine that right in line with ours. And at the end of the war, we traded back.
Okay. Now you were there then as a student doing what, layout kinds of things? Is that where you got involved in the layout stuff?
Mostly inspection.
Inspection. Okay.
Hands-on type stuff.
All right, so you were out in the shop still.
Yeah. Except when I got Tom Darton, and he let me follow the senior engineer around
All right.
to gain some experience.
Uh-huh.
But that was highly unusual, but I guess it was because of the war situation.
Yeah. So this would have been when, like in 42 maybe?
42.
Yeah, all right.
And that's when I got drafted.
Okay.
Was there 18 months
All right.
from, I guess it was February of 42 that I got drafted.
Uh-huh.
Then I was in the Air Force for 3 years. Came back in 1945, just in time for the big strike.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And during the strike,
Now, you came back going to GMI still, or did you come back just to work?
I came back, I was going to work until the semester ended,
All right.
but the strike came along, and they flipped me in ahead of schedule. Like I was 2 months behind in schooling because I hadn't taken it.
Yeah.
So they put me into make-up work and catch-up work at the same time,
Oh, all right.
and didn't do too well. After 3 years away from it,
That's
and
a long time.
go back, and I've missed 2 months of schooling, and they start me in school in the 3rd month down there. And that didn't work out too well. But coming back after that, they did away with having to work. No, I didn't either. I worked in the tool room
Oh,
for about 6 months.
okay.
Retooling for the, what would it be, the 47 automobile.
Okay, yeah.
And finally, an old namesake of mine, Henry Summer, picked me up.
Yeah, not spelled the same, however.
Right. And offered me a position.
Now, Henry was in plant layout at that time?
He was supervisor of plant layout.
All right.
At that time.
Yeah,
He later became packaging supervisor.
right.
But actually, I was assigned to plant engineering, and I was the opposite of Grimes,
Max?
Max Grimes.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
He was an A and I was in B. No, I switched section. I was in B, he was in A
All right.
after the war. And we both worked for Mike Green.
Oh, wow.
Remember him?
Oh, sure.
He's still alive.
Yeah.
I talked to his son,
Yeah.
Mike Jr.
Ted.
And there's a Mike Jr. too.
Yeah. Ted is the one I ran into regularly.
I see Ted. Did you know that Ted Ted's wife divorced him, married his brother Mike.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, it's not too common.
Oh,
And Stu Rutter was my supervisor.
okay. Bob, were you out on the strike during the strike time? Were you?
We met at LCC.
Okay.
It wasn't called LCC at the time.
That was the high school, the old high school, wasn't it?
Yeah, Central
Yeah.
High School.
Yeah. So
All
all the students met down there?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd have little forums and study sessions, and if we wanted to, we didn't have to report. Only on Fridays to pick up or check the
I see,
papers.
yeah. But you're still alternated back and forth to school. Was that still going on?
Yes,
that
schools.
time? Still was running. School
Yeah.
was running.
So we got caught up on our coordination reports and
Mhm.
things.
Mm-hmm.
Library right there.
Yeah.
It was neat.
Yeah.
And then Henry Summers offered me a job in Toledo, working for Al Porter, and that's when I started.
Okay. When was that? You remember? About?
Well, it was about March of 1940.
6?
Eight.
Oh, 8. Oh, okay. So there was a couple of years, 3 years in there from the time you came back.
Yeah.
Okay.
And worked for Al Porter for years and years and years.
Now, what did you have to do then as a layout guy, Bob, when you came in? Do you remember some of the kind of typical tasks that you did?
Well, I started in the inline 6 engine plant.
All right.
First I was in the 8 plant, and then they phased that out.
The old straight 8?
Yeah, straight 8.
Okay.
Then the straight 6 was phased out.
Do you remember where those
Yes.
were?
Yes, they were in buildings 33 and 28.
Okay. Where was
And-
engine assembly at that time?
Almost where it was with the rocket engine.
That was in 36?
30, no, not 36. It was 30. What was next to 28?
Coming west or east?
West.
West would be 33.
33?
Yeah.
Still got the sign, rocket engine plant.
That's on the front of building 36.
36. Okay,
Yeah.
I was thinking 56.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's what it was.
Engine assembly was over there?
Yeah, in the same place. Yeah.
Now, did we assemble both 6s and 8s on the same assembly line?
No, one was in 23 or 28, one was in 36.
Okay.
28, 33 is one, and 36 was the other.
Yeah, and 36 so was the V8 engine assembly, wasn't it?
Later.
Later, okay.
It was
But-
completely gutted and became the rocket engine.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
And Marv Katke was the first superintendent of that. He was the chief process engineer, or production engineer, that set it up, so it made him superintendent.
Yeah,
And he immediately took off for Ford Motor Company after that. So Lou Church became its
yeah,
superintendent.
all right.
And he died on the job. And they promoted Red Martin.
Mm-hmm.
He was
Remember
his-
that name?
He was his assistant.
Mm-hmm.
Promoted him to superintendent.
Now, all this time you were working for Henry Summers?
Yeah.
Through Al?
Throughout.
Uh-huh, okay. You remember how many guys about were in layout at that time when you came in 47 or 8?
I'd say 15 to 20.
Okay,
It fluctuated up and down.
all right.
We had some people in the wood model shop doing a complete change like the rocket engine.
Mhm.
They'd hire, maybe up to 6 to 8 model makers.
All right.
Then when the plant got done, they'd be laid off.
Mhm. Was that a new happening, the modeling of the plant, or had that started before you got there?
No, we were working with photostats when I first went there.
All right.
Dick Wires became the first, I guess you'd call him leader of the three-dimensional model.
All right.
He was hired in with that in mind.
Okay.
And he took charge of it and hired the model makers and got the tables built.
That would have been like around the start of the rocket time. Is that when that was happening?
Just about the time the rocket ended.
Uh-huh. Would that have been the first one we tried it on, or did we try it on other things? Remember?
I think the 6th engine plant was the last to go. And I think we built that up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was on.
Okay.
It's not really clear to me as when we did switch over.
Yeah. What would, Bob, what were some of the typical kinds of things that you can remember that you would have done as a layout person?
Well, in the beginning when we had the old photostats, we'd have to go down and measure up the machine because we didn't have the prints.
Mm-hmm.
Engineering didn't have prints of the machines itself. They had electrical requirements. And so we'd go down and measure. We'd take a model maker with us or whatever.
Yeah.
Another person anyway. And we'd measure them. If it was a press, we'd get ladders, get up there and measure the overall
Gracious.
points. And then we'd have an overall view of the press.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd put dotted lines in, as if it were an aerial view, put dotted lines in for the area at the floor level.
Okay.
And we'd have to be careful that the flywheels didn't hit the guy in the head when he operated.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Mm-hmm.
and it was mostly guessing by gosh. Safety was just starting to become something that was in plant layout at the time. Like we had hands-on switches where you had to have both hands in a certain place where you could cycle or press or anything that was dangerous. And the move in progression from Operation 10 to Operation 20, and if you had to have a float because one machine was slower than another, you had to calculate the number of pieces float required.
Good.
And to store some of these required some material handling trays so they wouldn't get nicked, some of the parts. And it was very antiquated equipment. And when the rocket engine came along, we got some new equipment ordered especially for that job. That was the beginning of the new era, I guess you call it.
Was most of the stuff prior to that just kind of single purpose? A machine did a job and that was the next machine did another job?
That's it. Exactly right.
Hand push sort of stuff around in the plant, or how did the material move?
Gravity. You had pans. You had metal pans.
Okay.
And they would roll down from one operation to another by gravity.
All right.
If it were allowed.
Yeah.
But even the engine blocks themselves, we could clump together. Didn't hurt them.
Really?
Yeah.
They let them bang. Huh?
Yeah. I guess they had nodes or knobs on them, so and they hit
kind of bosses or something.
Yeah. Didn't bother.
Yeah.
But then the rocket engine really changed things around. Brought us our modern engine plant.
That was mostly a lot of automation then, so to speak, or transfer machinery.
Transfer equipment. Yeah.
Now, were you still working down on engine stuff at all this time then?
I worked on engines till I became supervisor.
All right.
And then I became supervisor of non-productive layouts.
Yeah. Well, just a minute before we get to that. Tell me about Building 40. What was Building 40 like in those early days?
In the early days, Building 40 was a tool room downstairs and offices for production engineering and plant engineering upstairs.
Okay.
And at one time, it was just a balcony type thing, and you could look down upon the tool room.
Okay. Was that there when you were there?
Yeah.
Okay.
back in 41.
Yeah, so you had just kind of a guardrail around the edge, so to speak,
Yeah.
and you just looked over the side.
And that filled in, of course, and became extra area.
Yeah. But do you remember when that centerpiece went in, sort of, or is that while you were off to the war?
It was during the war, I think.
Okay. Did you
I can remember looking over the railing, and that was before the war. And
Yeah.
after the war, it was filled in.
Did you have a ceiling in the building, or did you look up to the old roof, the
Right.
monitors?
You looked right through the trusses and right at the roofing.
Okay. No air conditioning.
And it had windows up there.
All right.
And you'd open the windows for air conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
And once in a while, you'd find the fan to push the air on. It
Okay.
got rather hot with all the greasy machinery downstairs and the heat
Yeah.
and the oil fumes coming
Yeah.
off of the lathes and shakers. It wasn't the best of working conditions.
What did you have for, where was your workplace, so to speak, in the building there in the late 40s, later 40s?
Later 40s is right where it had been filled in.
So you were in the center section there somewhere.
Yeah, just south of the elevator
All right.
and west of the elevator.
Okay. All right.
That's
Did-
about where it was when you joined us.
Did you have a table, a drawing table or something?
Oh yes, everybody had a drawing table
Right.
and a reference table. Usually the reference table was handmade out of wood,
Mm-hmm.
and we had vinyl covers we put over our reference table and drawing board every night to keep the dirt off.
Okay. How'd you keep your elbows and arms from getting stuck to the drawings you were working on?
We didn't.
Okay.
Most of the time we wore long sleeve shirts and just rolled the cuffs up
All right.
short of the elbow.
Oh, yeah.
And of course the shirts wore out and got
Yeah.
dirty every day.
Yeah.
Black.
Yeah.
But that was one of the hazards of the trade.
Okay. Did you have a reproduction machine for drawings someplace in the building?
Yeah, it was over in production engineering. And Kenny Glossop and his brother Carl operated.
Okay. Was that blueprinting? Is that what it was?
It was called Blueprint. Yeah.
Okay.
And they actually got blueprints out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't until sometime later that the Oslid machine, is that what it was
Yeah.
called?
The white print. Uh-huh.
Came out of the white print.
Yeah.
And then we had slate boards with 1/4-inch squares on it that we had used for layout prior to the three-dimensional model.
All right.
And we would make photocopies of those photostats.
Where did you do that work?
The building 28 in Stores S did it.
Oh, all right. Uh-huh. Up on the second floor there.
Yeah.
So you'd have to lug those things over there?
Yep. Two
How-
guys. They were probably 12 feet, 10 to 12 feet long. Maybe they were 8 by 10 boards, I don't know.
Uh-huh.
But they were white paint with black paint over them.
Yeah.
You'd scribe through the black paint to the white.
Oh, yeah. That would give you your grid, your 1/4-inch grid?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And
What was it? Was it aluminum, or what were they made out of? Or fiberboard or something?
they didn't break, and they were covered with so much paint, but I think they were fiberboard,
Uh-huh.
because they did flex.
Yeah. How'd you ever carry them down that wind tunnel, going across the tracks and everything?
2 people.
That's why you didn't lose these things.
We were very happy to see the 3-dimensional board come in.
Yeah. Do you remember what precipitated the 3D boards? What kind of started that?
No, Henry Summers got the brilliant idea that he wanted to do it. He hired Dick Wires to do it. Dick was fresh out of the
Yeah,
submarine fleet at the time.
yeah.
And
Henry must have seen it somewhere, apparently.
probably did.
Okay, then.
We were the first, to my knowledge, we were the first to do it. First division.
Well, I think we were too, and that's why I was curious to try and figure out why we did it.
That would have been close to the late 40s,
Yeah.
maybe 1950 when we started. Give or take.
Yeah.
It was really innovation, I guess. People came from other divisions to look at it.
Uh-huh.
And then Henry Summers became supervisor of packaging, which was a new department that
Okay.
they started. And they brought in Phil Cartwright, who was a senior engineer in plant engineering,
Oh,
to
okay.
be the next supervisor.
That's where he came from. Uh-huh.
And he stayed there until the fire at the transmission plant.
Mm-hmm. Livonia Fire, 53 maybe, huh?
Somewhere.
Yeah.
And he went down there to help work on that, and he never came back. He stayed there.
Oh,
He offered a job.
oh, I see. Uh-huh.
And that's when Dick Waiters came.
Do you remember who the, what I call the major department head was in those times?
Oh, well, back, it was Jim Edwards for, seemed like 10, 15 years.
All right.
He later became head of Argonaut
Yes.
Division, or Realty Division.
Yeah.
Jim Edwards, and then after him was a fellow named Ed Ditto,
All right.
who headed up the Methodist department.
Okay.
And of course, then it became Truxell after that,
Mm-hmm.
and Mooney.
Bob Russell was in there somewhere, was he?
Bob Russell was in there, that's right.
I remember him.
Yeah.
Sometime was in there.
He was in there before Ditto.
All right. Oh, he was in there before Ditto.
Before Ditto.
All right. Did you have any dealings with those guys at all?
Yeah, they were my general supervisor.
So you would go in and see them and talk to them?
Back in those days, we'd write orders for a specific job and have layouts.
Mm-hmm.
We were into the drawings
Yeah.
then. And our plant layout supervisor would take us with him in to the department head and
Okay.
to review it.
So everything had to go through him, huh?
Everything went through supervisor first and then the general supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
And usually it'd be the same day. The supervisor would call the engineer up and he'd review it. And he would sign it and he'd say, okay, we can go and see Bob Russell now.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd go and see Russell and go over it
Yeah.
and sign it. Then it would go on over to Building 70 from there.
Okay. What can you... See, Henry Summers was a guy that very few people are going to remember. Can you describe him at all? What kind of a guy Henry Summers was?
Henry Summers was a practical joker. He,
Practical joker, right?
he was.
Okay.
He played practical jokes on everybody that he could, told the wild stories that had no meaning,
All right.
and he'd be the only one to laugh.
Oh, gracious sakes.
His eyesight was poor, and he had probably 7 or 8 children.
Oh, yeah.
And he was not a mixer. He never had any friends in the apartment.
Interesting.
Never invited anyone to his home that I know of.
Uh-huh.
Just kept to himself.
Well, how about Ed Ditto?
Ed Ditto, he was a exceedingly smart chap. He had I'd say he had a real high IQ.
Mm-hmm.
And he was liked by everybody except those that didn't get promoted by him. You can't promote everyone, you know.
Yeah.
So they thought he had favorites,
Okay.
which is probably true in any department.
Yeah.
But he was the kind of a guy you'd get to talk to anytime you wanted
All
to
right.
or needed to.
Yeah.
And I worked with Ed Ditto. Because back in those days, the methods and layout man worked together for a while. I wound up working with Bud Hoffman more than any of them over there.
Okay.
Because he was in the engine plants.
Yeah, all right.
And so we'd get time studies and Bud would get the increments broken down so he'd know how many nuts and bolts and washers each guy could put on as his engine went by and flying by on the pedestal. And I'd have to supply the appropriate hoppers for the parts. They were pretty much standardized back in those days. Like washers.
Okay. Washers would do what?
Washers would be in a standard container, like we call them standard hopper number 13, number 14.
Oh, okay.
And they were different size.
We're kind of a specific kind of part.
Yeah. Yeah. These would be grouped around a certain spot on the assembly line, the engine assembly.
Yeah.
So if I could put on a fuel pump or whatever and have the nuts and bolts handy.
So between you and the methods guy, you kind of figured out that kind of the sequence that things went together.
Yeah. He'd break. Well, every increment was time studied. We knew exactly how many seconds it would take to get a washer and put it, assemble it to a bolt, put it in a hole. So he would try to give the guy an hour's work an hour.
Yeah.
And you have to back off release time and all that. The guys never got hurt.
Usually completed, couldn't
But
they?
they could use everything. But that assembly line lasted, that engine assembly line lasted for a good number of years.
Still there.
Is it?
Yeah. It hasn't gone
That
yet.
pedestal?
Yeah, no pedestal.
What are they doing?
They're making V8 engines on it, just like they did in 1949.
Same one? Same
Line. Same. It's got new pictures on top.
Oh, yeah. Must have had new rail put in.
Oh, probably a dozen times, yeah. It's still there.
That.
What, let's see. J.J. Edwards.
Jim Edwards.
Yeah, didn't know much about him either.
He was a man on the upward swing. He came there. He lived in only apartments available in Lansing, which is out here on Union Village Apartments. They're still there.
Huh.
And he married good stock, had a son named Jim Jr.
Yeah, know him.
And very suave guy. And whenever his boss would come over, it was Tom Downey.
Okay.
He'd send one of us guys out to get some Edward cigars.
Edward cigar. Oh, yeah.
He said he called them his personal cigar.
Yeah.
So he'd come in, Tom Downey chewed cigars like
Oh,
licorice. So we'd have to go out and get some King Edward cigar. King Edward.
Yeah, King Edward's right.
And we buttered up his bosses. Eventually, he got out of that job and went to. He came from Turnstead down there,
Oh, he did.
or Janesville. So
After the war?
yeah,
Okay. So was he there when
he came with Tom Downey. I don't.
Oh, all right.
Turnstead or
Yeah. Okay.
Janesville.
So Tom Downey actually brought him along, apparently. And who followed him?
Don Burnham's
Okay.
in between.
Okay. Don Burnham was between him and,
He was production manager,
all right.
and Tom Downey had the distinctive title of works manager.
All right.
He had the production manager and the what other manager was it?
Well, there was all plant superintendent someplace in there. Where they worked for Tom Downey, I assume.
But he had charge of production and everything,
Mm-hmm.
everything to do with the works of the plant. And it's a title that went out when he died.
Yeah. See, who followed along after Edward? Was that Russell?
I think it was Russell then,
Okay,
Rob Russell. He came in from production engineering.
all right.
Nobody knows why. He got to it,
Yeah.
because he never had anything to do with it.
Did the department change any when that happened from the way of operating?
No, he was, it didn't change. Mainly because he didn't know enough about it to make change.
Okay.
He just let it ride and ride and ride. He was very slow to get anything through him. He would hold things up maybe for 6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Everything was always behind. I guess he figured that you get more attention out of it. I don't really know his
Wrong kind of attention.
MO. That was Bob Russell. He wore thin ties, clear down
Down to the bottom of his
usually on spot.
Okay.
Into his trousers. He tucked them in. The way he had a tailor back in his hometown, sent him 2 suits a year.
Uh-huh.
He had his own shoes. So you pick them out from the ties. As long as his ties are narrow, so he was quite proud of his tailor.
Uh-huh.
But he was dated. He's the only guy that looked like that.
Yeah. Did people all wear ties in those days, Bob?
Yep. Everybody wore a tie.
Okay.
There were a few junior detailers that did,
All right.
but anybody that was on the way up or wanted to be on the way up wore a tie.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody that got promoted without a tie.
Any women in the workplace in those times?
No, women,
Girls secretarial work.
secretarial.
Okay. So Building 40 was pretty much all guys.
Except for the girls. Yeah, I can't remember when the first girl hired him. I mean, other than Parker.
Other than the secretarial types. Was Eleanor there when you came?
Wasn't she always there?
I think she was a fixture, yeah.
Well, she was there when I came.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. She was there and I left.
Yeah. You mentioned you someplace along in there you became a supervisor of non-productive things. What was that all about?
Well, all at once, George Redmond was general supervisor at the time. He says, I'm gonna have 8 supervisors. He named off all the areas. And Bob Rowles had approved it.
Yeah.
He had to go outside the department. He had one, that was Bud Hawkins.
Okay.
Bill Crickmore, Bud Hoff, myself, Porter, Fernster, Blossom. And Niles.
Okay.
That was 8. Good. And then all at once he says, Rowles says we gotta have 4. I said 8.
No.
But they were only class 6 supervisors.
All right. So these were this kind of engineering supervisors almost.
So like group 6
Yeah.
group, they're only called supervisor and that.
Okay.
And I went over to Ford's plant to work for supervisor.
All right.
What was it? No, morning was in Memphis. And no, it wasn't either because Redburn was general supervisor. I don't remember who had the Ford's plant, but I got reduced. Well, I got my title taken. Supervisor, went back to senior.
Engineering. Okay. So that was like a 1 year long thing or something or?
Well, meanwhile, I had worked on three-dimensional model of the engineering building. And Claire Harrington asked if I could come over and do this building.
Okay.
And then I said,
Who was that?
Thanksgiving of 1960.
Oh, okay. Now, was the new engineering building built at that time?
No,
It was not built. Had you worked on the design of it, so to speak,
Yes.
from a layout standpoint?
worked on the late layout of it. Like we did for the parts fund.
Yeah. What did the non-productive supervisors, what kinds of areas did that cover? What part of the plant?
Everything to do with non-production and warehousing, the administration building, the engineering building. Just even the new car delivery, product delivery.
Yeah. Tool rooms?
So, I don't know what's that came.
So you had a group of guys, 2, 3, 4 guys that were doing all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think the first major project I had was Fox Warehouse.
Okay, that's the new one out at Mount Hope when it was built.
Yeah,
Right.
you remember that?
Yeah, it was in 1959 or thereabout.
The next one was, we had plant 3. You know,
But plant 3 it existed before that.
before the warehouse.
Yeah, that was a 51 tank. The initial buildings.
I worked on that too.
Oh, did you? Okay, you must have been an engineer.
I was an engineer type.
Yeah. Okay. So were you over there?
Darrell Porter.
Were you over there then at plant 3 during the construction phase, so to speak?
Yeah, they poured the lobby floor and the engineering offices on the first floor.
Okay.
Poured cement, and we moved in on the bare cement
All right.
and supervised installation for the jet engine.
Mm-hmm.
And that was quite simple because they'd have 10 Pratt & Whitneys right in a row. Same center lines.
Yeah,
Way.
yeah.
So you just go down there and snap 2 lines, and in 5 minutes we could lay out 10 Pratt & Whitneys.
Uh-huh.
And then set them up. Did the jet engine.
See, there was a pilot line somewhere, wasn't there? Do you remember that? For that thing? That engine?
Don't remember it pilot line.
Okay. Was the bumper plant there at that juncture, or did that come along later?
After the jet engine died down and was drawing to a close, they spent big bucks to put in a all new chrome plating bumper
Yeah.
plant. And Bill Crickmore worked that day.
Okay, so he was kind of the engineer on that
Yeah.
job. Okay.
And that ran over about tenfold what they'd been.
Even from a cost standpoint?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
mostly conveying system.
Yeah. So did you stay there during the whole jet, so to speak, the whole jet job, kind of from start to finish?
Yeah,
All right.
Paul Rardine and I.
Mm-hmm.
We had our own boards open,
Okay.
2-dimensional layout boards.
Yeah.
And Bob Passman would come over 1 day a week and work on it, and update it
Mm-hmm.
if we needed it.
Yeah. Was there a lot of activity in the jet plant during that time,
It
or?
was very low volume and very low in personnel.
Oh, yeah.
It was top heavy in maintenance, but in production it was kind of low.
Okay.
There were probably as many maintenance people as there were production
Oh, yeah.
because of the volume. But it being a government type job, you can't lose money on it.
Yeah, really.
So I guess it's All I can remember
about that.
of the old days.
Okay, now you moved over to building 64 and 66 after the new building was built as building engineer, was that what you were?
Building
Okay.
engineer.
And so what did the building engineer have to do over there, Bob?
Well, the building engineer was in charge of all projects, maintenance. Guess that's enough right there.
By projects, you mean
We
changes, what,
RA projects.
oh, money,
Money.
okay.
Everything over $1,000 or $2,000 had to have a project.
Okay.
And you couldn't do anything for less than 2,000
Mm-hmm.
unless you cheated. I did plenty of that.
You're 2 or 3 of us, right?
Yeah. But we have to get money appropriated for every little thing, every machine, every rearrangement. Up engineering and layout of it.
Mm-hmm.
When we get to our estimates, it took longer to get the estimate than it did the work. So that's the way it seems
Yeah,
when you're on the other side of the fence.
yeah, right.
Although we got pretty good service area.
Now, when did you, someplace in there, you got involved in all of this, projection business and presentations, and where did that all happen?
Well, it all started in our conference room. Wanted some sophisticated equipment,
Okay,
the latest
this is in the new building now.
high-tech stuff.
Yeah,
So put in a rack, all kinds of preamps, amplifiers, tape decks,
good.
the latest. And JB Lansing speakers, big things,
Okay.
about $3,000 a piece. And then got to a point where no one could run it, didn't understand.
Too complicated.
And so they said, Summers, you're gonna have to come down here and run this store and find an operator.
Okay.
So I came down and ran it, and I never did find an operator.
They figured you were too good, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So if something went wrong, I just dial the World sound system and come in and repair it.
Yeah.
We got good service, excellent service out of it. And then you had to have lab dissolved projectors.
What does that mean?
Pardon me?
What does that mean?
Where you don't have one slide, bang, it goes off, nothing comes on. You dissolve, one fades out, the other fades over on top.
All right, okay.
That's lab dissolved. So, and it gave a lot of people funny feelings, I guess. Belts was very impressed.
Okay.
And he says, after he introduced the Tornado in 1960,
66, which was at 65,
I don't
probably.
mean introduced, when he completed the first car, he became quite a man in the automotive industry. He was asked to speak at about everything there was around the United States. But he called me in one day and he said, I gotta have we called everybody, whole staff. He said, I want you to take care of the engine, you take care of the transmission, because we have a transmission engineer and a motor engineer, and a chassis engineer and a body engineer. And they all had to come up with how they designed it.
Kind of a story? Is that what they were?
Story for it.
Okay.
And then Bells decided, well, we'll build this thing on the screen as we talk about it. We started out with frame, but we'd show the frame in black, and we paint everything yellow. We physically did this.
And that's how you got your pictures?
Yeah.
Oh.
Then we'd paint the frame yellow and add maybe the shock absorbers
Okay.
and leave them in color, and then we'd make those yellow. We'd keep adding the same sequence that the car was being built.
Mm-hmm.
That was the story. That's the one I was trying to find.
That we were trying to locate over there. Yeah. Now who gave that speech?
John Belks did for the first time. Well, it wasn't the first time, he built up this speech for the SAE meeting.
Oh, all right.
He gave a paper.
Yeah.
I think
We have a copy of that. Yeah.
Primarily that's what it's for. I got the cost, it was $26,000
Yeah.
just for the slides.
Yeah.
A lot of it became, after so many photographs, and we went art.
Okay.
We had 3 or 4 artists on the took care of it. And I was spending 3 days a week down there and 2 days a week here, supervising the artwork, proving it, making slides. And the only reason I think of it, I was chosen over somebody else because I was familiar with it. Black Resolve again,
Isn't that so? So you had, that was kind of a traveling road show, is that what?
that was the road show that just about every SAE in every major city requested.
Mm.
They wanted Belts, John Belts. And John had a young man he thought had a lot of promise. He sent him on. He said, Summers, take good care of it. His name was Bob Stemple.
Okay.
Who later became,
Yeah, who is?
who is,
Yeah,
who will become chairman of the board.
right. Certainly. Yeah. Did Stemple then give the same speech that Belts was giving,
Yeah.
basically?
And I would guess we went 26 cities.
Wow.
In, well, less than a year.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say we'd average one every week and a half.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you spent a lot of time on the road then?
Yeah. San Diego, Los Angeles, Portland, Dallas, Fort Worth.
What
St.
kinds of
Louis.
groups were you speaking to?
More engineering groups.
Engineering groups, okay. Any interesting experiences you can remember?
One that I can remember, and this was in St. Louis. They call it the Engineers Club of St. Louis. It's blue blood. You can't get in unless your father was an
Yeah,
engineer.
yeah, all right. Yeah.
And you gotta be recommended, the board's gotta approve you before you become a member.
Okay.
And so Stemple and I and George Hirschman was with somebody. I guess you figured you need 3 people said too. And we went down, we had dinner, and this one guy says, "Well, Stemple." And at that time, his title was Transmission Design Engineer.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "This is the lowest speaker we've ever had. Usually we have vice presidents. No." He said, I mean, some of the people were really displeased when they found out that Belts was going to come.
Yeah.
They had lowered himself to chief engineer, vice president anyway,
Yeah.
not general manager.
Right.
So we went in and put on our formal presentation, which consisted of probably 100 liner and slides, lap dissolved, and a movie.
Oh.
A movie interspersed. I think we had probably 3 segments of the movie. And one guy got up and left, went out to the bar. And he stayed out there, and pretty soon he came wandering back in, wondering why his buddies hadn't been. When Stemple got done with his formal presentation, he took his coat off, put it over the microphone, walked up center stage, said, and rolled up his sleeves, says, "Now, if any of you got any questions about anything, let's go." He stood up there for an hour and a half.
I'll be darned. Fielding questions right off the floor.
Right, and answering them as quick as you could imagine. And that's what sold me on Bob Stemple.
Uh-huh.
And this same guy looked me up and he says, "I want to apologize. More than that, I'm going to send a letter to somebody." Apparently he was chairman of the board or something.
And he was kind of irked when he left in the middle. He was thinking.
Well, that wasn't the guy that left.
Oh, okay. You mean somebody else?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I said, well, it'd be nice if you would put your comments on paper and send a copy to John Belts and Harold Mitchell was our
General manager.
general manager thing. He said he would, so I gave him the address. And Belts said he got the letter. He said it turned out to be the best presentation. He'd been in there for 30-some years. Best one he'd ever heard.
Well, it was a professional presentation.
It was. So that was the one I remember most.
Uh-huh.
I would say there were probably 400 people there.
Yeah.
It's a big engineers club.
Yeah. What kind of a man was Belts, Bob?
John Belts,
You must have had some close dealings with him if you were traveling that much with him.
very unique person. Couldn't help but love the guy. On the surface, he was a rough, tough guy. And he was on he was rough and tough on me
Mm-hmm.
at times. But he and I got off to a good start. First day I was in the job, he called me in, he says, now I hand whittled this duck flying, and he said, I got 3 different sizes. I'm gonna get them cast, polished, brass. I want them hung in my brick wall behind my desk, certain way.
Okay.
And so almost immediately they appeared. And I said, well, show me where you want them. So I went over there. Across the overpass, just before the building was occupied.
Yeah.
And he said, I want them these. Tell them up. So I made a dot there where he wanted these.
Yeah.
And I got the superintendent of the construction trades to come in. 10 minutes later, I'm back over and I said to John Belts, come on over, I want you to see if exactly where you want them. They're good, they're we'll change it. He says, yeah, he didn't mince his words. He said, I'm gonna like you. So when I say to do something, you do it. We're going along this time. And from then on, we were speaking friends, I guess.
Yeah. Cool.
So he'd asked me for some critique once in a while when I was traveling with him. I went on Detroit with him once a month with engineering,
Mm-hmm.
because he always had to give a presentation.
And that was always done with slides that same way.
Well, not necessarily Atlanta. We got so used 35 millimeter slowly.
Okay. Later on. Yeah.
And movies. And he would take me with him. He said, no, when I'm up on the roster, I want you back there operating equipment. So I just go up there and elbow more in.
Yeah.
The guys knew it.
Yeah.
They didn't tell me the belts was coming up, so I go in.
He didn't want some outside guy running his slides for it.
Because we rehearsed.
Yeah.
I knew right where each side should come in.
They're kind of on the word that it would have.
And everybody else got, so they wanted to use it too.
Oh.
So I did an awful lot of it.
Any interesting, what I'll call backroom experiences?
Yeah. Remember the XP90 car that we tried to design, all plastic one?
Remember that?
We had it all designed on paper. Took it down there and finally got an audience with chairman of the board and president and Mac Ward, sales marketing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there may have been a few others. This is in the board. And so I was in the back showing slides. I can't remember the chairman's name at the time. Who was before?
Leonard?
Who was before him?
Roach? Let's see.
Roach. Got all done, and he didn't say anything. And all at once he says, now, John, I'm going to tell you why we're not going to do it.
Oh.
And So Roach's man gets up and he's got a flimsy. And it's not just a flimsy, it's got all figures on it. You can't even read it. There's no,
Little teeny.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
there's no lines in it. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
The guy gets up there and he just goes through it. Gets all done, nobody knows what he said.
Mm-hmm.
And Roach says, there, and that's why we're not gonna do it, John. And John says, well, Jesus Christ. Not only can I not read it, I don't understand it. Right to the chairman of the board.
Put it back on the screen and go over it again?
No,
Well, let's do that.
no, I thought that was, he said that just blew me right out of the friggin' top. He added that.
Yeah.
So that was John Bell. Other times, he used to be roughing Howard Carroll. He was his assistant chief engineer.
Mm.
And he figured Howard was sent down there by Ed Cool.
As a spy or something, or just to be there?
Well, he was a full transplant. He wanted to follow John Bell's.
Oh,
And so he used to be belittling right in front of everybody.
yeah. Really?
And then Howard Carroll got so he did it. Because he figured that's what
He could do it, huh?
I heard him be a little Howard Carroll. That felt embarrassed.
Hmm.
But he went on,
Yeah.
it must be that. You probably just teach.
Yeah.
of 4144 Watson Avenue, Holt, Michigan 48842. The recording was made on August 29th, 1989 at the Oldsmobile History Center in Lansing, Michigan by Jim Walkinshaw. This is tape number 2 of 2 tapes.
To Howard Carroll and
John
Belton
Bell's.
Lidley, yeah.
John Bell's like the needle people. He said, he brought out the best. He said, if I chew a guy down in front of people like in the engineering meeting, he doesn't come in the office and John start clawing the carpet. I don't want him on my staff.
He doesn't come in the office and do what?
Start clawing on the carpet.
What does that mean? To
Get irate.
get mad, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, he wanted people to get mad at him?
Get mad so he'd come in and talk.
Oh,
Not mad at him.
oh, okay.
And he'd probably have some little beef. He'd say, well, why didn't you say that in the meeting? He sat there like a dummy and didn't say anything.
Yeah,
And sometimes it makes belts look bad.
yeah.
So mostly it was because the guy went to sleep. He hated people that went to sleep in meetings too. So he'd ask them a question.
Right while they're sound asleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said, I want that answer. What answer? Come to my office. And he was very punctual. And he liked people to remain attentive. He was a different type person.
But now he eventually died, and who came along after him?
Howard Carroll.
Howard Carroll was the next guy. Now, did you have that same close working relationship with Carroll or not?
Had the same working relationship. I wouldn't say it was close.
All right.
Howard Carroll used to take me on all his excursions.
All right. So you still were the kind of the back room guy for Howard Carroll.
And after him, Bob Dorsch.
Okay. How was Carroll? How would you compare him? What kind of a person was he?
Howard Carroll was hardworking. He'd go down the floors, that was before he had a carpet, his feet just be flying, you turn a corner and he almost be skidding like a dog.
Yeah.
And one time I went down to Detroit with him, I said, Howard, you're gonna have to slow down. You're gonna kill yourself. He says, well, as soon as I get to be a plant manager, I want to slow down. He was chief engineer of that. But he knew Belts was either destined for promotion.
Yeah.
At that time, he thought he
Yeah.
would be promoted. Then he got cancer and
Died.
in a very short period of time he died. And but Howard Carroll never did slow down.
Yeah.
And he was mostly for Howard Carroll. I had a chance to get promoted. John Belts had asked me to come over and work for him in Building 7. And one time Howard Carroll said, when I was going to Detroit, he told me that. And he says, well, I couldn't let you go because I need you. I said, would it have been a promotion? He said, yeah. I said, well, that isn't very nice. To get a chance to get promoted, and didn't do anything. He said, really, would you want that promotion? I said, yeah. He said, okay, I'll talk to John. Last I ever heard of him. Belts got sick. I have no idea what Belts had tonight. Never talked to him.
Could you get close to Howard Carroll? There wasn't.
No one was supposed to.
No one was close.
Wishmer, after him, was kind of guy you go and talk to.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk to Howard Carroll, he was always on the defense. He thought he's going to do something.
Everybody was picking on it. Huh?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Remember one time he got on Claire Harrington. Claire Harrington had been on vacation. He came back. I was all set to brief him when I was to do it because I called up and say, well, I got, come on up 5 or 10 minutes because I got to do this and that first. And meanwhile, I get a call from Howard Carroll's secretary. Howard Carroll wants to see it in his office.
Uh-huh.
So I go in there and here is Harrington.
Uh-huh.
And what had happened, one of the motors had blown up on the roof for the air conditioning fan system. We didn't have any backup for us. It was just as easy to get a high lift, take the engine or lines and electric motors, and they overnight they rebuild it, bring it back and install it. So we're going down one day, which wasn't too bad. I didn't take him out long and change the motor.
Sure.
And he said, how come this motor blew out? He said, I just got back from vacation. He said, well, I don't care you got back from vacation or not. He said, you're supposed to know these things. He is chewed on. Sorry, Harrington. They chewed and chewed and chewed. He kept saying, I had an appointment with Summers to go over all this stuff. You called me in here. It didn't make any difference to them. That's what he said. It's your job to know what's going on. So Harrington says, well, I guess I got it on the way out. Why don't you come in with us now? He said, I don't like to be chewed up like that. I said, we had, I did all right. So Bull Bear didn't like to be chewed out. Nobody likes it.
Well, no. That's great.
Particularly in front of someone else.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of guy he was. I guess he learned it from Belts.
Isn't that interesting? But Dorshimer was another different kind of guy again.
He was more subtle than chew out. He did it in private. I guess. I never heard him chew anybody out.
Yeah.
Oh, he might for sleeping. I ridicule a guy that I could stay awake, could have heard that. Or shake that guy, he's sleeping.
Did the management style change during when those people changed, or any of that sort of thing happen?
No, everything always seemed to be the same, like, like the patterns cast,
Mm-hmm.
all the molds were right there. They just stepped in, filled each guy
Uh-huh.
chair.
Yeah. Okay.
Nothing changed. But the only thing that changed, assistant chief engineers would switch duties.
Okay.
Like the body, assistant chief in charge of the body might get the chassis, engine or something. But everything was status quo. I don't know if it was good or bad. Things sure changed now.
Who were your bosses that you worked for directly, Bob, over there?
I always worked for the administrative engineer.
Okay, that was Claire Harrington.
Claire Harrington and Ted Munn.
Okay.
Only two bosses I ever had.
Roughly.
And once in a while, Claire Harrington would report directly to the chief engineer.
Mm-hmm.
Usually we did.
Right.
And in later years, particularly after Munn came in, we reported to an assistant chief,
Mm-hmm.
Jim Lewis,
Mm-hmm.
Ted Lewis, after Jim Lewis
Yeah. Okay. When did you retire, Bob?
retired April 1st, 1982.
82. You retired then in 82. What in all that time, Bob, might have been your most interesting experience or your most enjoyable one that you had? Can you think of any of those?
I guess being at the level I was, which wasn't very high,
Well, yeah. But,
that I could be in the same room with the chairman of the board and the president, the chief engineer and the
Yeah.
general manager. I wasn't. That was part of the highlight.
mhm. Okay.
Just being around those people,
Yeah.
see how they thought, talked.
Any major decisions you remember being made during any of those get-togethers that would be of interest to people?
Well, most of them were just to tell them what our product line is.
Right.
And then they knew ahead in advance what we were doing because it was approved
Mm-hmm.
on paper.
Okay.
Really, all we were doing was showing them the finished product,
Mm-hmm.
explaining the product.
Yeah.
But I'd say Oldsmobile was rather inventive. Hydromatic transmission,
Yeah.
cruise control came out of our advanced design. Front wheel drive, which is accepted in
Yeah.
domestically, 98% of the cars are more.
Yeah.
That was an Oldsmobile innovation. That wasn't innovative, it was just applicable, I guess, to that auto and became a standard unit. Well, we all tried to tell them we had the best engine. I mean, each division thought they had the best engine.
Mm-hmm.
And we weren't any slackers, I guess, because our V8 engines were powerful and gas guzzlers did the job. No 455 engine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any big decisions. No, everything that we came up with got shot down.
It's too expensive to something, huh?
Yeah. But I wasn't in on, see, I didn't get in on going down to general managers.
Yeah.
So on,
Yeah.
until the tornado.
Okay.
So I don't really know how the tornado got started.
How it got you passed.
All I know is that the Eldorado and tornado were introduced the same day.
Mm-hmm.
And Cadillac paid for half of the engineering all the way across the board.
Even though we did it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
All they did was put their shell
Mm-hmm.
body in. Skin, I guess, is different.
Yeah.
But the engine, transmission, driveline, chassis, all were the same.
Mm-hmm. How about Bob? Out of all those bosses you worked with, who was the one that you liked the most, maybe?
Well, I guess that's say John Dallas.
Okay.
Very unique person. Had a heart of gold. Always admired him, looked up to him. It's fun to be around.
Mm.
Well, maybe it's because he would compliment me if I did a good job.
So he did do those kinds of things, even though he might ridicule a person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he did it to everybody, he did it to me. So he did a good job. I should mention it.
Yeah.
He always invited me in for a drink or dinner afterwards with the big boys. He made me feel like a person.
Mm.
But I also gained respect of staff, like Bob Rollis,
Mm-hmm.
Fitz Bennis. Matter of fact, we made slides for
Yeah, that's right. A lot of
a
those.
lot of those.
Yeah.
Everybody but manufacturing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that.
We'd set up sort of a slide group. So whenever I had a slide, I didn't have to go in advance to get approval. I just go out, Sky McDonald, so I need so many slides, or Fred Jantz, the
Mhm.
supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
And say, when you gotta have them? I said, today. That's what it seemed.
Yeah.
So they'd pull 3-4 guys off, or whatever they're doing. We'd go on overtime to
Make up there at work or
Yeah.
something.
and if it was too much to handle, we'd go to Detroit.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever use the Leavenworth bunch at all, or was it mostly Detroit?
We had our own camera. We had a better camera than Leavenworth.
Oh, did you?
We didn't have the personnel to run it.
Yeah,
So I'd usually get a guy out of Detroit come down and run
I see.
the camera.
Uh-huh.
And I remember working 36 hours straight on the slideshow.
Must have been about ready to fall down.
But every model, we'd show our products to the press,
Mm-hmm.
and then the chief engineer and general manager would go on making changes right up to the last day. So when it would go down, usually they were to proving, so they could ride the cars and they'd look at so I think 2 divisions a day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And we would usually hit the morning. So we'd have to have a slideshow, formal showing of it, and then have lunch and put on and ride the cars in the afternoon. Anyway, the changes, like I said, were being made right up to the last day. So when I go down there that morning, I'd have some slides sticking somewhere. We'd rehearse the night before till midnight.
Does that always work okay?
Yeah. Never had it. So at one time, when Cook was general manager, we had a pretty sophisticated show with slides. I had 9 projectors set up.
Okay.
And it was all on a tape.
Yeah.
All the cues were on a tape.
Yeah.
I put it on ready, stand by, hit the button, and it just went click, 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 and everything just started going.
This was the real thing, or the
This was the real, well, I hadn't opened the drape yet.
Oh,
So I canceled everything, put it back to zero. And did the same thing second time, third time, and went where it's supposed to. I have no idea what happened.
I bet your heart was in your mouth.
It worked beautiful. I have no idea what went wrong to this day. Must have got a wrong signal.
The beeping at some point, yeah.
Just like a dirty. I don't know.
The,
Now that equipment's all gone. They charged that with the slides.
the old, lantern slides, those were all done manually, weren't they? You had to stick them in the thing and slide them through or something?
Didn't you design a mechanism to push them in?
No, no, we had similar thing to yours over in Route 70. But that was all manual, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was all man.
And you had to sit back there and drop them in, slide them through, pull them out, turn the crank, or whatever you had to dissolve them.
It was a transformer.
Yeah, Variac. Or something.
Variac.
Yeah, we had a variable, when you turn the crank, you got different voltage on each side.
Oh. Yeah, but we took one and put a peg in it halfway. So,
Yeah,
so there's increased one hit of decrease.
right. I can remember some of those slide shows that were, the guys had the slides too close together, so you didn't have time to make the
Very well.
switches in the back room, and
Did you see some of them?
oh, it got all fouled up.
I remember having with John Bells, we were presenting it to our employees over in the auditorium.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't rehearse.
Oh, cold.
Yeah, he'd been out of town. Came in and he had the speech in front of him. And he had one word, a slide, one word, a slide.
Oh, gosh.
And he just kept saying, tornado, whatever it was, right on down the line. And Hale were long up 6 slides behind.
Couldn't keep up at all.
And he knew it.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, Summers, I'm gonna say this word. He said, that slide better be there. And it was. And we threw out about 6 slides to get to it.
Sent that right over the PA.
Yeah. Then he came back and laughed. Kidding me. He said it in Georgia.
Yeah.
He said, you know what? He said, this has taught me one thing. Never give a speech unless you rehearse.
Oh, yeah.
I agree with him.
Well, those are interesting experiences, Doc.
Yeah.
I think that's great. That's great.
Seeing as how I never became CEO or anything like that,
No,
being around it was a lot of fun.
but it's just, all of those are interesting experiences.
You got to be around it regularly.
Well, I did some of the same things, yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
Oh, it was always fun.
Hear what they had to say.
Well, anything else you can think of, Bob, that you'd like to share with folks in the future?
I can't think of anything more.
Okay. Let's shut this thing off. See, we're looking at a photograph, I think, of plant, is that plant 3 maybe? Or is that the engine plant?
Let's see.
I don't know. But Phil Cartwright is on the right, huh?
He's explaining
Okay,
particular model there.
that's engine plant, that's what it is. It's 88-220-7, the photograph number. Recognize anybody else in that? There's Bob Russell. I see a guy I recognize. Isn't that Bob Russell right there?
Yeah, that's Bob Russell in the back. Yeah.
Yeah. But I didn't recognize any of the rest of that bunch.
Well, I don't either.
Okay, that was about 1949 or 50.
I should have known.
There's the same picture. Okay, this one is in the model boards, and I think I know most of those guys. This is Buckley.
Yeah.
Redburn. Who's this guy?
Phil Cartwright.
Okay, and Don Gallen.
Gallon.
Okay. Another engine plant, one word picture. There's your picture right there, Bob. And that's you.
That's
right?
me, yeah.
That's that one we were just looking at. Here's another one which I'm sure you'll recognize.
Maury, Daychini,
Riney
Rainey,
and
and
Niles.
Niles.
And this must have been up in Building 40.
Yeah, it was. Probably paint plant.
And what we're looking at there. I think it's I think it's axle plant because I think there's the axle assembly line right there. Right? Here's a bunch of guys standing there. Excellent plating model boards, 19.
Don Burnham.
Okay. He's on the right. I think, is that Bill Mead by any chance, or who's that? Okay.
Jim Edwards.
Jim Edwards is the,
Bill Cartwright.
see, Cartwright is the second from the left, and Edwards is the fifth from the left. I think Skinner is in the middle here. I think
that's Skinner. Well, look, it's actually tied.
Yeah.
Well, I know.
Okay. You want this 1950 axle. I know. The rest of these don't have pictures of people on them. Let's see, those guys I'm sure you all recognize. Those are Wolfram,
Bob Russell,
Bob
Bob
Rouse.
Rallis, Tom Downey.
No, is that Downey or is that Hanson, Russ Hanson? Oh, here's a better picture. So it is Tom Downey, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Tom Downey.
Okay. All right. Also 1950s picture. There, on boards. There, the people. Switch this over here. People there. Maybe. Oh. Okay, take this off.